Hey guys, it's Brittany again and welcome to Under the Radar Books, and today I'm going to be doing a quick review on a book I just finished called Monsters by Fennell, and this was brilliant. And I think I first heard about this on Sana's channel, Books and Quills, and it sounded so creepy and I just immediately paused the video and went and bought it on Book Depository and had to read it as soon as possible. So the blurb on the back says, "Two children you would never want to meet. The beach, the sea, a body, and then another. A girl, a boy, and a summer holiday unlike any other." The story follows an unnamed girl. She's 12 years old. Her parents are killed. You find this out on the first page. Her parents are killed in a boating accident. And so she's an orphan. She ends up living with her grandmother. And every summer her grandmother goes on a trip, and so she actually sends her to stay with her aunt and uncle who own a hotel. And so she goes to this hotel every summer and stays there, stays in this little town, and you learn about all the quirky characters that live there. And certain summer when she's 12, she ends up meeting a boy named Miles, and he's also 13 years old. Or towards the beginning of the summer, there is a body that is pulled up in a fishing net, and she witnesses this. And from the beginning, you find out that she's quite an odd child, and it probably has a lot to do with, her parents. She talks about the relationship she had with them and how it wasn't a super great relationship. And then she is with her grandmother, her grandmother has always been fascinated with crime shows and crime books, and so she's been fascinated with murder and things like that. So you learn that she's kind of an odd child. And so then when this body is found, she's super fascinated, and she kind of wants to start her own investigation and try to figure out who the murderer is. And since such a small town, the police officer who's in charge is not a very impressive man as far as detective work goes. And so she kind of takes it onto herself that she is gonna solve this murder. And so once she meets Miles, she learns that he is pretty similar to her, and he's also fascinated by it. He wants to help her, and they both are going to investigate. As the story goes along, you learn a lot about Miles and the main character, the young girl. They both have very difficult relationships with their families, and I think that affects them very much in how they react to emotions. And both of them seem, especially Miles, they don't seem to have any empathy for other people. They're both quite selfish and kind of dark, and Miles doesn't have a dad. He only has his mom, and his mom is very sheltering. He's homeschooled. She makes his own clothes, and they even sleep in the same room, and I think they even bathe together, which is super odd and creepy. And so you kind of start to learn why he is the way that he is, and he's quite a disturbed child. She kind of starts to see how he's a little bit of a monster. More bodies start to appear as the summer goes along, and they continue to try to investigate, and they get quite wrapped up in the murders. And I won't tell you anymore because I don't want to give too much away, but I think this is such a good book. And even though it's not super in-depth as far as descriptions go, but the voice of the narrator is so interesting, and it's unreliable, but it's also very childlike, and all of the things that she says and talks about, it's so real. Like you're actually listening and talking to a child, and I think that is brilliant of the author to be able to bring that out. Because I think sometimes books with child narrators can go really right or really wrong, and I think she did this perfectly. It's a really good examination of the effects that adults have on children, almost like nature versus nurture, and how our surroundings help the way that we develop, and how things that happen when we're young can stick with us for a long time. And I think there's a lot of focus on how mean kids can be to other kids, and I think there needs to be a focus too on how mean adults can be to kids. As a child who had a difficult time getting along with some of my teachers when I was in middle school, I think a lot of times that's overlooked, that adults can bully children in a lot of ways, and this really explores that idea. Yeah, I think it brings light to something that sometimes we don't really think about. So I would highly, highly recommend this. It is definitely disturbing. It's very dark. There's lots of trigger warnings, I would say, as far as sexual harassment and domestic violence. So, I mean, it's definitely not lighthearted in any way, even though it is a YA book. And I would say this probably isn't even suitable for someone under the age of 16. It's very dark. But yeah, I would recommend it if you're into that kind of thing, if you like dark stories, and especially if you like child protagonists, because it is brilliant. So yeah, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I think the reason why I didn't give it 5 out of 5 stars is just because, like I said, there's not like a lot of depth, and it's quite a short story, and the font is very large, and so I think I just wanted more, honestly. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. It just wasn't like 100% blow my mind kind of story, but it was very, very good. So I would definitely recommend it. Yeah, that's Monsters by Emerald Fennell. So thank you so much for watching, and happy reading!